And we are live and we are here. Everything's good. Nothing's broken. Okay, great. Greetings, bookworms, and welcome to our Lunch and Learn, where we're going to go ahead and dive into the amazing program, virtual tabletop that is Fantasy Grounds before we go straight into Session 0 of Descent into the Void Campaign 2. I am your resident tale weaver, Omar, and I am joined by the fabulous cast of A Tale of D20s as we dive right into this learning session. So, I am not going to be teaching this, but our professor, our resident enchanter, Xendarik, aka Travis, who's right there in the middle of the screen, will be guiding us through. So, Travis, if you don't mind, take it away.
All right, diving right in. Well, thank you very much. I am your resident wizard and enchanter, Xendarik. And we can switch on over to our main screen. Let's just jump into it. So today I'm going to be giving our fantastic players here a tutorial of Fantasy Grounds and how to navigate, turn on, and make sure that everything's set up appropriately and build characters so that way we all are set and ready to go. So we've already had a few people jump into our chat. So you can see here when you first join into the screen over here on the left-hand side, we have our chat box. And underneath that, you'll see the dice row and some basic modifiers. So these are all of the things that when you first log in, it looks very plain, but we'll jump into all of the stuff in just a moment. Oh, and we have our first redeem. Hi, Mike TV. Thanks for welcome in. Thanks for joining. I hope you're ready to learn. I'm the problem. It's me. Right, exactly. So first things first, everyone loves rolling some dice and picking their colors and getting set. So before we dive into any of the modules and assets and the combat tracker, let's pick up our dice and then drag and throw them in. So you see you have your standard row. You can just drop them in. They have a little bit of weightiness to them. You can sort of spin them around and throw them. You can also grab multiple. So I have left clicked and picked up my dice. If I right click while still holding it, I can add more. And you can see if you have, those 10d6, those 5d8, whatever it may be, you can bring them in. If you have advantage on something, you'll see the little ADV in the box next to it. You can click that, and then when you throw, it'll throw too and give you the higher result of that. You can also do the same thing for disadvantage. And then the +2, +5, -5, -2 are just little buttons that are like sort of the standard numbers that a DM could request or players need to use for certain abilities. So they're just shorthands, ways to sort of increase your roll. So if a DM says, roll me a d20 plus, a 5, you can easily do that. To the left of both of those is just a standard modifier. And if you click it once, a cursor box will not actually appear, but then you can put in like a 3 or a 7 or a not and a 2 and a 5 number. So the 2 and the 5 are the standard, but you can always add or minus different numbers as needed. So you can also do it with negatives. So if I have a negative modifier, so here I got rolled a -1. So you can do that as well too. So now that we've used our dice, we've thrown them, we've modified them, let's change our colors. So you'll notice on the right-hand nav, this is where all of our options are. And up at the top, the tools is where we're going to be looking and working. So you can see over here, there's actually a dice button. So if you click on that, it'll bring you here to your options. And so what's really cool is we can change the body of our color and the text itself. So everyone who knows me knows I'm an orange kind of guy. So I'm going to choose orange for my body, and then I'll pick a regal purple. Actually, purple's kind of hard. I'll do like a dark blue for the text. And then now you can have something cool. And then also when your dice perform shittily, you can say, this color ain't working for me. Let me find a new one. Also, Fantasy Grounds has some awesome basic skins. So if you want to default switch to, say, arcane magics, or if you're using lots of fire spells, you can grab those. And so there's these options here, the elemental basics. And if you're so inclined, they do have buttons here that can lead you to the stores. And I think for a few bucks, you can add, metallic dice or ones that have auras or ones that have ring effects. Or, you see here they have a bunch of cool options. So, if you, want to drop a few bucks, you can do that. But they give you some cool options here by default for you to play around with. But you can always just sort of own and manage your own via the button here. And again, that's in the top right section of the dice. So now that that's how we sort of set up our base, let's dive into making sure that we have everything appropriately. Yep, there we go. Look at that lovely purple, that magenta and white. But now let's dive into setting up the fantasy grounds itself, so that way we can build our characters appropriately. Oh, and Zeki, thanks for that hydrate. Here I have your resident wizard's water bottle. Thank you for that. The first thing that we want to do is, you'll see there's under the tools, there's all these buttons and options, but that's not actually where we're going to go first. We actually want to jump into where it says, not assets. We want to jump into where it says modules. So this is basically all of the books that your DM has purchased and uploaded into the Fantasy Ground servers. You have to sort of turn them on and say, these are the books that I want to use. So you only need to do this once for the campaign that you join, but for each campaign that you join, you will have to do this. So Rachel and other people who are following along, open up your modules section, and you'll see here, I have a bunch already loaded, but I'm going to show you how to do this. So when you first open this, it will be empty. You want to click down here on the bottom. There's this activation button, and that will bring you into your section where you can activate all of your modules. And you'll see here that I have some additional coding effects that I have purchased from Rob2E, and some books that I have already loaded, like the Eberron, Wildmount Guide, Mordenkainen, and Tome of Foes. So these are all modules and things you can purchase that I have preloaded into my campaign. So you're going to want to go in and hit the load button or flip the book icon and turn them on. And so it does, when you click each one, it'll take a moment, but eventually the book will open. And that's how you've loaded it. So you'll, click through and go through. I believe I have, well, it also depends on your screen resolution and size, but I have 4 pages of books. So you want to go through and open up all of those books. So that way, when we're building our characters and working in the campaign, the spells automatically work, the effects automatically happen. You can drag and drop things, and it just makes it much, much easier. So that way you don't have to, program everything automatically. So I'll give you a second to sort of go through and do all of those. And you'll also notice on my screen here, I have some that come like default. The Fantasy Grounds give you battle maps. They give you additional tables of fumbles and crits, etc. And I'm sure on the Fantasy Grounds website, we have a very active community. You can find some things that other people have built and created and import them into your campaign, and always add more. You're never stuck. So flip through these pages and sort of open all of these books and modules, and then we'll be good to go with the next steps. Any questions on sort of how that works and how we're getting set up? Rachel, I know you're...
No,
Yeah, I usually am a chaos being of many questions, but I'm just opening books because you taught me how.
Right.
And now I'm just like, bang, bang, putting them in.
It's going smoothly, right?
Yeah.
Fair.
I didn't say that out loud. I just want everyone to know that I didn't say that it's going well. Ah, damn, I did too.
We gotcha.
Now
Zach,
we're
you gonna say something?
We did it. I'm superstitious like that. Oh no.
I'm a little stitious.
I had a query.
Sure.
Can we load all the books at once, or do we need to manually click each one?
I unfortunately do not believe that there is a way to automatically load all books at once. So unfortunately, I think, you have to go through and click and turn them on. So we can add that to the list of The devs are quite active. They have a fantastic Discord and online community. So maybe that's something that they can release in a later version. And Fantasy Grounds is always being updated. In fact, it was updated 2 days ago with major updates. So it's a thriving system, and we're here for that. I feel like my poof is just off screen. Okay. Now, let me know once you've finished doing that, and we can actually now start building our characters and start going through creating a test person and learning some of these other places. Finish loading, good to know. So while you're finishing up that, let me just quickly talk through some of these other tools, because this is mainly where you'll be spending most of your time is in the tools section, and then on your character sheet itself is where we're going to be spending most of our time. So under the tools, we have our crossed swords here at the top right corner. If we click that open, this is the combat tracker. So when people roll initiative, and you'll see that this is my actual active campaign. I host the Radiant Citadel on Mondays, and these are the characters in my game. You can see that they've rolled initiative, and it pre-orders them. It keeps roll of their health numbers, if they're wounded, if they have temp HPs, any status effects that they have. So as the DM, I can see the actual HP numbers and all of that. You guys would probably only see if they're wounded or if they're, like various levels. You won't see the exact HPs. So just so you know, if you're seeing things that are slightly different than me, that's why. It's because I'm the DM and players have a slightly modified view. And if we have enemies on there, they'll be red. And like, let's say, for example, I'm going to make a neutral faction, and then I can also make them hostile. So that way you can see the difference between them visually on the combat tracker. So this is an important thing for when we're, playing in a game. You'll want to keep this open, but you can always click and find that up here in the combat tracker in the top, the crossed swords. There is a party sheet. I actually did not drag my party members onto this, but their stats would be here. This is mainly for the DM or the players to quickly see everyone's stats sort of lined up. So I can actually, let me drag a few people on it so that way you could see the ones that were in that combat tracker. Just another way to visually see their information in a quick and easy format. And then when the DM gives out items or money and such, they can drag and drop them in here. And this is sort of like the loot table for your player. So, or if you want to share items, you can put them in here and drag and drop them from your character sheet. It's sort of like a catch-all place, and allows also the DM to quickly and easily distribute what gold the party got to everyone individually, as well as for the DM to see what items everyone in the party has. So that's the party sheet, and that's the one next to the swords here in the tool section. There is an ordering icon, so if you are in a tight corridor, you can literally say, well, we're going to walk in this formation. This section mainly isn't used that much. Occasionally, like I said, if you're in a if you're in a tight corridor or a specific place, you can, easy for the DM to say, okay, well, this is the standard formation that you guys are always going to be in. And last but not least is the XP side. This is really for the DM to come in here and sort of distribute XP or keep track of encounters as they happen. So just a quick overview of the tabs on the party sheet. You guys mainly will be focusing on the main tab, but that's optional. You'll probably be spending more times in your character sheet. So a really awesome feature next to that is the calendar. I currently don't have a calendar. I don't want to manage one in my campaign. I've sort of burned myself with keeping custom, calendars and such. But if you did have one, you can keep track of it here, and it will be an easy place for your characters to go in and sort of manage how and when the campaign is progressing. So that's, again, in the tools next to the party sheet, little calendar icon. To the right of that, again, is our dice. So here's where we changed and modified what it looks like. And you'll always be in this one. So that's a good one to remember. We have our modifiers. So if you're attacking with an opportunity attack, or if you have some cover, or if you have a critical hit or max or half damage, you can turn these on. And then when you roll, it will automatically calculate. So here, let me roll, a couple dice. Oh, it needs to be for an actual attack. It's not coded for just random things. But if you were to roll damage and had this clicked, the modifier would take into effect and it would give you half as much damage. Or if you had critical selected, it would, double the dice for your attack. To the right of that, we have the little person that has like the stars around them, and that's the effect icon. So this is, if you're blinded or you're charmed, you're deafened, you're intoxicated, etc., this can be easily dragged and dropped onto your character sheet. So if you're like, I'm invisible, I cast invisible on, Vilya. You can see here now the effects on my character sheet come up as I'm invisible or I'm frightened. So this can be managed by the DM, and usually will be managed by the DM, but you can also take ownership of the statuses that are on you as well too, to sort of alleviate some of that burden. And from the combat tracker, we have, our targets, we have the reach, we have our weapons that they have available, the defenses. And lastly, this little winged boot, if you hover over it, the title will always appear. You see effects. So that's how you can open up the what effects are currently on a person, who dragged them on, and where they're from. So you can quickly turn and shut them off and delete them, or, drag more on, etc. But this is how you can easily, manage pulling in and changing the effects that you have available, and that affect your character. To the right of that, last thing in our tools is our options section, and this is just various options for the system itself. You can put on manual dice entry, you can have auto remove on miss, you can have auto center the map when it becomes a player's turn, chat options, table options, things like NPCs rolls, variable health. There's lots and lots of things that you can turn on and affect. What characters see, effective grid, fog of war, party vision, tooltips, lots of like just various things that you can manage here in the options section. One of the things you can also do is you can put in a decal and a logo. So if I want to change the logo behind me, I can quickly do that, or put a picture into the system to sort of customize it. And also, this sort of leather gray playmat looking aesthetic is the default Fantasy Grounds aesthetic. There are lots of cool ones that are for free that you can download and layer on top, so that way you can match the feel of your campaign. And there's also, I'm sure, dozens of pay ones that you can also do to download, or pay and download. And then if you sort of dabble in coding and know someone that does, you can have them work on sort of creating extensions that will allow you to modify the look and feel. And you'll see the difference when we jump into our session 0 in a little bit, because I wanted to show you the defaults, but I know that our resident Tailweaver has something special cooked up for you all in our main game. So these are just lots of settings and things that you can set up and customize as the DM, and some as the player as well. So that's everything in the tool section. We've done the modules and the library. Assets are all of the like icons, pictures, things that you've brought into your campaign or your game. And it's very easy to upload things that you like. So down here, you see there's a store button, which will bring you to the store and you can purchase assets. Or if you've found one or create them yourself, you can literally just upload them into the Fantasy Grounds folder. So you can upload them into your portrait section. So here we have portraits and a sneak peek of what's to come and some of the people here. You can see I have images. So I personally subscribe to Sezipuku Maps. They're fantastic map makers on Patreon. So I have some of their maps uploaded here into the game. And so I can, eventually get to them and use those. So you can easily pull in all of the assets and different options for your game. And so, for example, here's the map that our players were on earlier. In my session, I have a nymph fountain with some lovely aesthetics with our dryads here protecting this sanctuary. So you can pull in all of those things that you have in the assets section. So we'll close that. And now the long anticipated character section. So under the players, click that characters button and it'll bring up you to the character selection. And by default, it will be blank or empty for you. But when you create your character, it will sit there in the host's game. So that way you don't have to make it every time. It will be there for you. So what we want to do is create a new one. At the bottom, there's a plus sign. So we'll click that plus button and it will open up a new character sheet for us. And here, this should start to look familiar. This is like a D&D, standard D&D character sheet. Let's see what this looks like. We have, your name, class, background, race, senses, etc., all of your ability scores on the main tab. And the way that this works is there's this tab system on the right-hand side of the character sheet. So by default, we're in main. Underneath that is skills tab. You'll see all of the skills that are standard to D&D. Underneath that are abilities. So this is like your features, your core class, any traits, where you're proficient, the languages that you speak. Beneath that is our inventory. And inventory is obviously items, how much money you have, the encumbrance and weight you can carry. Notes section is stuff about your character. So your gender, age, height, weight, etc., alignment, your bonds, ideals, flaws, appearances, etc. Underneath that, we have a log section. So here's where you can, if you want to keep in-game character notes, you can type them out. You can do so here. And last is our actions tab. And this is where we'll be spending most of our time. This is where our spells go. This is where our weapons go. And this is where we will click to attack and target our enemies. So by default, obviously, it's very blank, very empty, but we're going to fill that out together right now. So with this, the one thing that's so fantastic about Fantasy Grounds is it's drag and drop. So all of those modules that we loaded before, we're going to open them up or open up the various sections and drag them onto our character sheet and be prompted for all of the choices and options of what we want to create. So I'm going to close our other tabs here. We had the player tab open and the campaign tab. We don't need those. We want to open the character tab on the right-hand side. And you'll see that this looks very familiar. It has, background, classes, features, races, skills, spells, etc. So let's go from top to bottom and drag them into our character. So I'm going to open the backgrounds. And you should see the backgrounds list will be pre-populated with, all of the standard ones, acolyte, charlatan, criminal, courtier, da 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 da. And so for each of the books that you might have new ones. So for example, I've purchased this Sword Coast Adventures player guide. So I have Emerald Enclave Agent as an option. If you don't have that book, that won't be an option in your choice. So that's where, you can also, build and create new items and program it yourself. You always have that option, or you can always go to the site and get it. So you should see all of the choices here in this list. So my players, I believe Rachel and Adam, you guys are both in. I saw your characters pop up. Do you see the backgrounds and are you following along? Just want to take a quick pulse.
Yes, I am looking at all of the options and I'm like, I want to make a criminal.
Let's make some criminals. Okay, so let's do that. I'll be a criminal too.
Let's all be
So-
criminals.
Criminals. Let's do that. Okay, so what's super cool is you'll notice that there's this little shield icon next to all of the different things. If you click on that shield icon or the name itself, it will bring up the stats about what that is. And it gives you all of the information in another box. So you can see the standard details of what you're looking at, the specialities, any features, and any other things that you get for having this or being this background. That's on the main tab. And if you click on the other, it'll show you sort of the features that come directly with this background. So if we're criminals, we get a criminal contact as our feature. So that's listed out here in the other section. And anywhere you see this little shield icon, and this varies, just so everyone knows, depending on the aesthetic of the Fantasy Grounds, it could be a different logo, a different icon, but the default is this shield. So you can always click any of the shields, anywhere you see it, anywhere in Fantasy Grounds, it would open up another thing and show you like what's in it. Just so that way, if you're ever like, wish I could learn more, if you see an icon there, you most certainly can. So with this open or from the backgrounds itself, we're going to literally drag and drop it onto our character sheet on the main page, which is where the background is. So here I have my criminals. I'm going to drag and drop. And then you can see in my text channel, it says added criminal background, added feature, added skill proficiency to deception and stealth, added proficiency in game set, thieves tools, etc. So did you add that onto your character? And I'm going to, up here at the name, I'll do Travis's, actually, not, we'll say Xendarik's criminal. Crime boy. Okay, cool. We see crime boy coming up.
A full name Crime Boy Rachel, because I'm a crime boy now.
Cool, love it. And actually, what's fantastic is to the left of where you type your name, if you click on that portrait, it'll bring up a portrait option. And here you can see I actually have some that I purchased. So if you want to click on that, you can see in the data tab is where I've uploaded pictures of the pictures that I've uploaded is in the data tab, but there's ones that, I've purchased or downloaded from others in the other buckets. So you can see there's like FG Fantasy, Modern, etc. So, and again, these are if you have, a friend or purchase assets, you can upload them in and, have your own cool little art aesthetic. So let's pick something fun. Nice crime boys. Nice crime boys there. Cool.
These are some sweet crime boys right here. I love them.
Okay, so then next to that, since we're done with our backgrounds, we can X that out. But if you ever want to read more about your background or forget, you can see on your main tab where the background is the shield. So you can just click it and it will bring back up the box with all of the details in it. So that way, if you ever forget, or if you're like, what's my feature? How much money did I get? Do I have a crowbar? And you're like, oh, yes, I do. Definitely have a crowbar. That's part of my standard starting equipment. You can always reference it and pull it right back. So now let's do the same thing for the next one. So the next one is classes. So again, that's on the right-hand side under the character sheet. You can see all of the various classes. And again, it might have multiple listed there because that's for each of the books that you have downloaded. So in Xanathar's, we know that more changes came out or more subclasses came out. So that's why you might see it multiple times. But don't worry, as long as you pull in one, it will give you the options for all of the ones that are listed for that. So you don't have to specifically grab the Tasha's Bard to get the Tasha's class or the, Xanathar's Sorcerer to do that. So let's drag in what we want to be for our crime boys. I'm going to be a crime boy. I'm going to be a crime boy bard. I'm going to drag my bard in. And when you drag in your class, you will see that it's going to pop up and say, hey, you get some shit for being that cool class. Don't forget to pick them and choose them. So for me as a bard, I'm, they're sort of skilled in pretty much everything. And I get choice pick. I get 3 listed below. So I'm going to choose acrobatics, deception, and I got deception for being a criminal, so I don't want to choose that one again. I'll choose insight and sleight of hand. And then the little checkbox for okay will appear at the bottom once you have satisfied the criteria. So this one will say 3. I know rogues get 4 when they start. Other classes get less. So choose whatever it allows you and then click OK. And then that's how you add your level to your character. So let's say we're not actually level 1. We're going to say we're level 2 or level 3 because that's where most of the time you get your class increases. So I'm going to drag in Bard again from my classes list. Like we don't want to type the number 2 or 3, we want to actually drag it in so that way the system knows what we're getting. So in this example, I'm going to drag Bard in a second time. I got in, if I look down here in my trade or the chat window, it'll say I got Jack of all trades feature for a Bard and the Song of Rest added to my character trait because that's what I got at level 2. Rachel, do you see your level 2 stats and abilities?
Yes, I do. I'm a level 2 evil high priest.
Ooh, cool.
A very good crime boy.
Very good crime boy. Adam, how's yours?
My crime boy character, wizard character, is a level 2 wizard crime boy.
Okay, cool. Let's drag one more level because our subclasses usually come in for 3 for most. I don't know about evil priest, so we'll see about that one. But for most classes, when we drag in our level 3, that's when you choose your specialization. So since I'm a bard, I get all of my options, you know, College of Creation, Eloquence, Glamour, Lore, Swords, Valor, Bards, Whispers, blah, blah, blah. For you, you'll get all your wizard choices. And please enlighten us, Rachel. What do the evil priestesses get? Because I'm not sure. But this is if you would have subclasses, this is where it would come in. So I'll choose lore for me. And then again, in the chat window, you'll see that we get more options added to our character sheet. And then once we have our level 3 bard criminal or level 3 wizard criminal, level 3 evil priestess, high priestess criminal. And again, the shield is where you can sort of dig into the details and see more of the stats and details if you want to look up and see what it is you'll actually be getting with that class and character. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
I just love how evil you've made everybody.
Right? It just comes so naturally.
I feel like the only thing playing in my head as every time you say crime boy is the freaking island boy. Just like, because I'm a criming boy. That's all I'm freaking playing in my head every time you say crime boys. Sorry, everyone.
It's fine. But do we have our level 3? Do we pick our subclasses and stuff?
Oh yeah, crime wizards mature faster than the average crime boy, so I got mine level 2.
Okay, cool. So now we're going to add in our racial option. Pick what type of crime boy are we? Are we angel crime boys? Are we bugbear crime boys? Are we different? We come from different backgrounds and ancestries. What do we want to be? So you can see here I have lots of books and things available. So you'll see like we have turtles and the tieflings and variants and shifters, etc. So lots of various choices. And then again, same exact way that you would with all of your other things, you sort of drag it on. I'm actually going to choose a dwarf. I'm going to be a dwarf crime boy.
Why I gotta be a dwarf?
And when I know, well, because we know how we feel about my angelic elves. So I'm going to choose dwarf, and it's going to immediately pull up sub-race options. So in the dwarf section, we know there's Duergar, Gold Dwarves, Grey Dwarves, Hill Dwarf, Mountain, Shield, etc. And those all come from the various books. So when you drag it on, it's going to say, hey, what are the options that you want? So you can choose, I'm a Shield Dwarf for this one. And when I choose my subclass, it will then, pull that up so that way you can easily see that available. And then if you have any additional trainings or things applied, it will come up in your chat here. And you have all of your stats. So you will also notice that once we've dragged on our race, because that's where the additional proficiencies come from, our ability scores, which were 10s, 10s, 10s across the board, now have additional numbers. So the shield dwarfs get a +2 to strength, and a +2 to Constitution. So I have 12 in my Con and 12 in my Strength. So just take that into account. And most, because of, with Xanathars and Tasha's coming out, everyone can be sort of anything now. So usually you get a +2 in one stat and a +1 in another, or a 1-1-1 breakout. So if you're rolling, you're point buying, etc., you can modify your stats, but then remember to add your racial abilities. Or if you put in your rolled or point buy stats and your abilities first and then dragged your race on, it would give you the boost that it normally would. So I think that most players sort of plan out their characters a little bit. So if you roll, point buy, etc., factor in whatever your stats would be, and then you can manually modify them in abilities. That's generally how I do it and how I recommend you all do it as well. So let's just pretend that we rolled some stats and we need to change them so that way our character is set up. So I'm going to click onto my strength. There is no actual cursor that appears to let you know that, but I've clicked into it with one left click. And I'm going to say my strength is actually a 14. And then I click the numbers 14, and you can see that my stat has improved. Since I'm a bard, which uses charisma, I'm going to go down to charisma, click on that. I'm going to put 18 because we all got to be sing-songy. My wisdom, I'm not that wise. I'll give myself an 8. My intelligence, we'll say I'm a 12. My constitution, I'm a 16. And dexterity is also a 12. So there, you can just sort of click in and type your numbers, so that way your stats are all set for your abilities. And you can see as I changed them there, my perception went down because that's based on wisdom, and I changed my wisdom. My saves and stuff got modified based on my stats here. What else is important for this section? Oh, okay. So down at the bottom, what's really cool about Fantasy Grounds is we count our wounds up towards our max HP instead of counting down. So you have your whatever your max HP is, and then as you get damaged, your wounds go up. So if I have like 5 wounds, you'll see it's slightly coded into a green, and it's like I'm only slightly hit. But if I have like, if I click into it and I put 17, it's bright red to say like I am close to my max HP and close to death. So here's how you can check your health and stuff down here, as well as your death saves. And then the TMP is temporary hit points, so that sometimes comes into factor. Underneath that, HD stands for hit dice. So if you drag click and grab that dice, you can drag and roll that, and it will automatically lower the wounds that you have. So when you're taking a short rest, you can do so using that. Or if you're role playing and your bard is doing their song of regeneration or whatever, song of rest, and you get extra health, you might want to just click in there and hit 0 if it would bring you down, or whatever the amount would be. So does this make sense for the main page, the home page for our characters?
Yeah.
Clear as
Cool.
glass.
Yeah.
Awesome.
very good.
So now let's move on down to the next one, which is our skills. And in here, you'll see that based on all of our selections from our characters, from our, being a crimey boy, and also our various other things that we've chosen, we have some proficiencies. So that is indicated by the little stars here. And if you gain proficiencies in certain things via your travels or learnings, etc., you can click on the star to learn those proficiencies. If you have an expertise, if you click it again, you'll see the double star, and it says double proficiency bonus. So that's expertise. And then if you're like a bard for me, and you have like half proficiency and everything, that you'll see like the half icon appear, and that will automatically modify your total number on the side. So again, for stats, you can easily modify them, and sometimes you'll have bonuses. So if you have an item or a thing that gives you a +1 or +2, in the miscellaneous column, the middle, you can click in and say, well, actually, I have a special pair of boots that make me a little bit more acrobatic. And so when I put that +2, you saw that it jumped to a 5 for my dice. You can also, again, you'll see the shields right here next to all of these. You can click on the shields and it will bring you up like what this, what it standardly means, what that skill is generally for, and, use it as a reference. So sometimes, it's pretty plain and simple, but sometimes you're like, well, let me see if medicine technically would do this, or, would nature, would this fall under nature, or would it fall under survival? Those types of things, if you want to sort of dig a little bit deeper. What's super cool about Fantasy Grounds is you can add more skills. So, if you have, you know, tinkering tools, or you have, weaver's tools, or things that are important to you that you're going to like a skill that you're going to do often, you can um, do that. Criminal speciality. Oh, you're still building your how deep you're going into your back lore.
I was trying to figure out how the shields work on the main page and was like, oh, that's where you can get granular with it. So
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
sorry, it's just clicking.
No, it's okay. Yeah, you can click around, no problem. Yeah, all of the tables, like if you in the criminal background, if you click on your criminal speciality, that is the options that are listed for criminal in the book. So you can roll a die. Like most people just choose it, but if you're like, I want it to be random, you can roll a die and it's like, I'm going to be a smuggler. Well, you're going to be the hired killer. So you can sort of add that extra level of randomness if you want to. And same thing for the personality traits. So you'll see there's the criminal personality, ideal bond, flaws, etc. So you can click through these, or you can roll the dice to, have it choose the one that you want if you want it to be random. So I should have said this before. Let me jump back to the main page, or even on the skills page. Anywhere you see the sort of the buckets where your numbers are and the little dice icon, that's means for you to click it. So if the DM calls for, hey, give me a strength check, you click on the strength under abilities, you can double click it and it will roll, or you can click and drag and grab it and physically roll it yourself. Same thing for the saves on the main page on the right-hand side. So the saves are slightly different than, than the things. Yeah, so there you go, dexterity check. And the thing that's really awesome is you want to use these dice here because if someone casts guidance on you, it knows that that's a check and it would automatically give you an additional bonus. Or if someone, gives you enhanced ability, etc., because it's coded to look for if it's an ability, a save, etc., it'll give you those bonuses or boons, or or banes, depending on what was coded in. So the same thing for the skills. You'll see where the numbers are located. You could choose the +5, plus, whatever your pluses are. You click on it and you can double click, or you can again drag and drop to throw it. And so that will allow you to sort of do it. So, can I have my crime boy teams give me stealth checks? Ooh, crime wizard character, natural 20. You super stealth.
Nice.
Oh, with the highest comes the lowest lows. Crime boy Rachel, you got a nat 1 there.
I knew it was going to be a nat 1 because I tried to put it in the first time and just kind of like threw the dice across the VTT, not into the dice tray. And I was like, I'm not very stealthy. This turtle priest is not stealthy.
Yeah, turtle priest, not that stealthy. Okay, but there we go. So now you know how to do that. So underneath the skills tab is the abilities tab. So on the right-hand side of the character sheet, this is where you get all of the things for when you dragged in, being a turtle, dragged in being a priest, dragged in being a whatever. It pulls it in for you so you can read about it at a moment's notice. So like I chose Bard College, Bardic Inspiration, with the lore, etc. So you always can, you don't have to sort of pull up another outside source. It's all right here for you to say, well, what did that feat do? What do I get? You can always just click here and remember, what it is. So you have your feature section, your traits, usually for being the race that you are, or if you have, some learnings maybe you get, as well as your proficiencies. So your armors, your tools, your weapons, your gaming sets, etc., with languages being at the bottom. And again, if you learn more or get more things, you can usually drag and drop, or you can also type them in. You will also see here at the top is feats, which are currently blank. We haven't drug in any feats. If I look over on the right-hand side, the feats section, you will see if we open up that box, we have all of the standard feats that are available, and we can, again, drag and drop them in. So I'm going to be a healer for our group, so I'm going to drag in the healer feat, and you can see it has added that to my list. And then if there's any bonuses or things, you might have to manually add them to your character, but at least it gives you the learning section or the details of it. So you can always drag and drop them in. I'm going to be the inspiring leader and healer. The feats make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Underneath, so that was our abilities tab. And this is just a place for you to sort of keep track of everything and all of the stuff that your character would get. So your feats, your features, etc., traits. Remember, the little icon is always how you would open it up to sort of, dig into the details of what it actually means. Because you're like, criminal contact, what do I actually get? This is, you have a reliable, trustworthy contact who's your liaison, and you specifically can reach out to them, blah, 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 blah. So you can read more about it by clicking that icon. Underneath that, we have our inventory, and this is where we're going to keep track of all of our items. But for the sake of time, let's just pull in our pack, our items. So if under the campaign section, you'll see that there's the third one down is items in the list. And most items are programmed in. Most common things or non-magical things you can pull into your character sheet yourself. If it's a named item, the DM usually has to give it to you directly. So if you're like, hey, wait a minute, I can't find my XYZ, ask the DM. It's probably a magic item. But for most things like your candles, your torches, your water skins, etc., those are all accessible and you can drag and drop in. So I'm gonna in the items section at the bottom, you see there's actually a search bar, and it's above these filters. I'm going to just type in the word pack, and that brings in all of the diplomats pack, the dungeoneers pack, the entertainers pack, all of the standard packs that characters get to choose from when they're setting it up. So in this one, I'm going to say I have the burglars pack, and I'm going to drag that onto my character sheet. And what it's going to do, it's going to give me all of the items that are in that. So you can see here, I dragged in my burglars pack, and it gave me a backpack, ball bearings, a bell, some candles, a crowbar, pitons, my water skin, etc. So here's where my, all of my items are. And underneath that, we have our treasure. So PP, platinum pieces, our GP, gold pieces, Electrum, the redheaded stepchild currency of D&D. We have our SP silver pieces and CP copper pieces. So as you get money, you can manage and maintain them.
I would prefer for this campaign, Omar, if in the future you can only pay us in Electrum.
Okay. I hate that
God.
currency.
I hate that currency so much.
7 Electrum phase.
Right. But what's super cool here too is if say for example we're questing and there's a magic bird and we're like, can I have a feather? And you persuade the bird to give you a magic feather. You can just simply click in here and hit enter or return, and it will bring you to a new line item. You can be like, magical feather from the phoenix on the mountain hill, mountain and side. And then you can create items on the go. And I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I do that religiously. So you will see, I have a list of like things and stuff. So you can, keep track of the stuff that, gets, given to you, etc. So you can see that, what do I have? 76 pages of items. So there's dozens and dozens and dozens. Electrum is the cryptocurrency scam of D&D. That's what Mike TV said. That's so funny.
Ha, hilarious.
So you can pull in lots of, magical items and things like that, and keep track of it, or add, create your own, with the DM's approval, etc. So in this example, I'm also going to show you that the system helps keep track of attunement. We all see here that we have 3 attuned items. So if I pull on an item that requires attunement, there's a little circle here that appears next to it. So that way you can see this little checkbox. And here, I'll give you all an item. Let me pull on here. You get a war wizard, and you also get a war wand.
You get a war wand, and you get a war wand, and
Exactly. And so then you can turn that on, and then up here at the top, you can see we have our equipment attunement number. So that way we're always aware of what's attuned and how we are attuning it. And then the other most important, or not most, but an important piece of this here is our equipped/carried icon. So all of this is carried by the little bag. But if it's something that I can equip, it becomes a little t-shirt symbol. That means I'm wearing it, or I have it as an empty hollow circle, say not carried. So if like it's in my trunk at home, in my house, etc. So, and this auto calculates encumbrance down at the bottom, but I don't think that's that important. But the reason that this is important is, for example, let me jump on down here. Let me go to the back. I'm going to get some studded leather armor 3, and I'm going to have it unequipped. My armor is 11. But then when I come over here and I click where's the alphabetical, and I click equipped, my armor now jumps to 16 on the main page. So equipping the item on your inventory really changes your stats on the sheet itself. And that works the same thing with weapons that you may have. So if you have like a bow or a dagger in your inventory, but you don't see it as an option to attack with, it's because you don't have it equipped. So that's the only other major takeaway from this section. So I'll also give everybody, we're low tier fighters, so we all get clubs. So I'm gonna give y'all right. I'll give you all a club. We're a bunch of wizards walking around with big clubs. So make sure you equip.
Gurg make fire. Gurg use cantrip. Gurg hit with maul.
Yeah, Gurg, you got it. So make sure you have your club equipped. We're going to be using that in just a moment. So that concludes our inventory. Underneath that, we have our notes tab. This is where we can, keep notes for ourselves. So I have a female dwarf. She's, 35. She's 5 feet. She's 173 pounds. She's medium. If you have an alignment, you can type whatever. Same thing for your deity. And your personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws, etc. you can type in, or if you want to use the ones from your background, you can drag and drop them on. So here I quickly opened up my criminal tab using my shield. I went down to the bottom table with my criminal ideal, and then I'm going to drag this freedom. Chains are meant to be broken for those who would forge them, and drag this directly onto my, what is this, ideal. And then the sentence gets typed in there for me, so I don't have to pull it all in. So you can drag and drop even with these additional features, or you can type it in yourself, as well as type in notes for your appearance and notes for whatever. Any questions there, fam?
Nah, this has been deeply thorough.
Yes.
Okay, cool. We're almost done. I know we're a little over time, but we have the most important sections coming up. So very quickly for the log, if you're a player that wants to keep notes and keep track of things that happen in each session in the campaign, or I know lots of players like to write. I personally like to write myself too, but sometimes I find it easier just to keep it directly on my character sheet. You do that via this log tab, and you can see here there's this adventures header section. If you click the little plus icon, it creates a title, so you can do session 0 blah 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 blah, like the title. And then you're like, well, that's not really a great place to put all my notes. This is just the header. We want to click our shield icon again. That opens up an actual place where you can keep more efficient notes. So you can put in the date that it happened. So this is 2/26/23. If you care about keeping track of the actual gold you spend, etc., I don't go into that depth, but mainly here I use it for my adventure notes and downtime activities. I can be like, blah, blah, blah happened, and blah, blah, blah happened. And down here in the magic items, like we did, da, 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 and so promised us, blah, 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 blah. So you can write yourself some notes here directly in this section. We can lock it so that way we don't accidentally delete something.
We have a question
then
from
there you
Mike TV. He wants to know if can the notes be seen if you are offline and not connected to the server?
So unfortunately, the DM is the one that opens and maintains the server. So if the DM server is closed, you wouldn't be able to get to the notes that you have. So that would be a negatory. You would have to work with your DM. They can open the server for you, and you can hop in and do it, because it's all sort of hosted by them. Like each person is directly DM is God. Got it. Exactly. Yeah. So they'll have to open the server for you to jump in, but you can keep track of that on your character sheet if you don't want to like keep notes or have tons of notepads. But it's just one of the things that sometimes you're like, let me just take notes really quickly before I forget, and that's the place to do it. Okay, last but not least, we've come to the actions tab, and this is the second most important tab of your character sheet. Main tab is the main most important one. Actions is your second most important one. This is where all of your spells, your attacks, your features, your abilities are for you to, for all intents purposes, work and do. So when you open up this tab, you'll see that we have our weapons up at the top, and then any like abilities or effects that you may have as spells at the bottom. So you can see our club is equipped. We can see that it is a melee weapon here because of our sword symbol. We can see that it is currently primarily wielded on one hand. We can click 2 hands. We can click 0 hands. And so that determines, sometimes you can do versatile, etc. Sometimes it's a ranged weapon. So if I decide to throw my club at the enemy, I lose my proficiency. So my to hit will get reduced. So here's, you can, switch between the different types of weapon. But the way that it works is obviously we have to hit first, and then our damage will happen. So for our club, I'm going to drag that to the box, and you can see here I rolled an 8 plus 4, 12. That misses, unfortunately, so I don't get to roll my damage. But let's see. A 14 does hit. So Rachel, you can now roll your dice. So you can, again, in a very similar fashion, double click or drag and drop, your preference, and throw that damage onto the dice. There it goes. 5 points of bludgeoning damage. So that is how you can do your weapons attacks, 2 hits and your 2 damages. So to the right of that icon, or to right of those, you'll see this little sort of loopy icon. That represents, it's actually a magnifying glass, and you'll see that on lots of places, and it's very important. It's a very important thing you'll see throughout. If you click that open, it sort of lets you dig deeper into the details of this weapon. So if you get a magical item, you can come in here and modify bludgeoning and add the word magic to it. If you get a bonus, like let's say it's actually a +1 club, you can add the +1 bonus to damage. If you get a +1 to attack as well, you can put the +1 in the attack modifier section here. If you got hit by a stupefying ray and lost your proficiency, you can shut that off or turn that on. If it's a stronger than a d4, it's actually a d4 and a d6, you can drag that dice into the dice section here. And then when you close it, now you will see those additional items get added to a 9 doesn't hit, but we're going to pretend it does. You can see that it will roll those additional dice and modify club. Very good. Exactly. So yep, 2 + 5 bludgeoning, exactly. So that's how you can, modify and do all of that. Beneath that, we'll see. Let me open up yours and just take a quick look. We have, since you have your cleric abilities, you have all of your divine things are pulled in. You have all of your different divine channel divinities. The system, unfortunately or fortunately, gives you everything. It puts all the options that you could potentially have in your list. So you'd probably want to delete out the ones that are not relevant to your character and have the options that are. So let's just say we're using your first ability, your channel divinity, abjure enemy. So it doesn't look like there's anything for you to do, but if you click on the little magnifying glass, it will open up the additional like stats and abilities. So do you see, Rachel, what I'm talking about for the first channel divinity, abjure enemy?
Yes. It sort of like pops a little like tab down, and it's got effect, cast, the save
Save,
DC. I'm
effects,
guessing if like there's something involving attack, it would be there.
Yes, exactly. So if this one, when you cast your spell, they have to resist your wisdom save. So you would target your enemy and then click that wisdom button. So if you want to click the button, the little icon next to the save to roll the dice, we could pretend, oh, you're not actually targeting an enemy. So
Oh, yeah.
because I didn't put these on the character sheet. So that's why. Hold on, let me do that for you real quick. Okay, so you are on the combat tracker now. So if you want to open iconic, open the combat tracker again. So that's the top right, the crossed shields, and you'll see you're at the bottom, Crime Boy Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
The way that you target enemies or allies in this game is you hold control and then left click, and you will see that you are then targeting a person or an ally. So you're targeting Aura the Crystal Samurai. So now click that wisdom button. And what it's going to do is it's going to make them roll a save. And they failed. So they rolled a 5 versus your ability. So your magic went off. So your channel divinity now frightens and reduces their speed. So you would now click that effect button that's right underneath it. And then that puts the effect on them. So now they have the frightened effect. They have their speed halved effect. And that's how spells work in this game. So I'm going to just for, let's put an attack roll. So let's put a firebolt onto you have a ton. So scroll down to the bottom and you'll see in the spell section, I put a cantrip there for you. A firebolt, and that has an actual attack itself. So Adam, I think you also have some attack spells. So if you want to, let me drag your character on the sheet. You can target someone now too and roll your ranged attack to hit them. And it works the same way. So you target someone and then you hit that attack button, or you can, again, if you drag and drop, it will roll. So 16, and it even tells you 16 hits. So now you can click the damage button and it will automatically damage the person that's on that character sheet. 5 big points of fire damage. You got it, Adam. Rachel, do you see the firebolt?
Yes.
Okay. And so that's there we go. So you targeted someone that had Okay. You rolled twice. So a 3 and a 13. They got super high AC. So that missed. But so if it did hit, you can then roll the damage button and it will automatically apply to the HP on the tracker itself. So you can see their wounds go up. And as the player, you might not see the actual number, but you should see like slightly wounded, hurt, bloodied, etc. And like the colors will go from green to orange to red till to dead. And when you do enough damage, it will say person is in a dying state. So that's how we go through and manage our spells and our attacks on our character sheet. On the right-hand side in the character section itself, the very last option there is the spells list. And that is the full entire list of everything, all of the spells that have been loaded. And it works just like every other section in Fantasy Grounds. You can drag and drop from the character sheet from the list onto your character sheet, and it will auto pull in the damage, the attack, the ability, the whatever it may be, and auto sort the levels, etc. So you see, for example, I dragged an aid, which is a 2nd level spell on your character sheet, and it says spells, and then in parentheses, level 2. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I see you poking around down there, Rachel, with the mode. And this is the one last thing that we can cover before we can wrap up today's session, is the mode that you're in. So depending on what type of caster you are, you might have to prepare things like our druids, our clerics, our wizards. They have to prepare how many spells that they have. And you do that by, I'm just going to drag in a few spells onto your list so that way you have them. If we're in our preparation mode, you see to the left that there's an actual little checkbox. You can check off which spells you have when you're in the preparation mode at the bottom. And then if you switch into combat mode or your standard mode, you'll see that there's a little star icon listed next to it. And that's how you can use that to determine, I have these for today, because right now on your sheet, we only have 3 available. But let's say you can only prepare 1 spell. Well, you can switch between, aid 1, aid 2, or Agazine Scorcher. You know what I mean? Like you can check on and off the spells as your mornings progress, or whenever your character is allowed to prepare new spells for the day. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah, looking at this evil high priest, it's just, I think it was trying to like take a cleric and customize it. So that's why there's everything on it.
Yeah, I think so. But normally you'd have
yeah.
much less choices. But yeah, so that's pretty much all of the things that players would need to sort of make sure that when you log into Fantasy Grounds, you download all of your books, you customize your dice color, you create your character, drag in all of your background class features, race, skills, and then spells. Any weapons that you have also get carried over onto the actions tab, and then you're good to go. So any last questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, things we want to go over?
So if I drop a note from log, like for example, I made this note here, can my fellow crime boys open this note up and take a look inside of it?
As the DM, I definitely can. Let's test this out. Can you open that note in where the dice roller is, Crime Boy Rachel?
I don't think so.
You see note Z with Z. Can you click on that?
No, I can click near it, but not on it. The little shield doesn't do anything, so.
Bummer.
Bummer.
No passing notes in class. Dang.
Let me try one more thing. How about if I do that? Did it open it for you?
Oh, yes. Test on 2-6. Zendo the Great. Friendship. We were crime boys. We were them.
We were them. Awesome. So another way to pass and share things, if you want to do it directly with another character, is you might not be able to as players, but as the DM, I can drag and drop an item or something onto a character sheet. So, and the icon in the top left. So the top left, you see our turtle boy and our our man there. So if I dragged this note directly onto the crime boy, that's how it opened up. So you might be able to drop things yourself. So Adam, if you want to make another note and share it with crime boy Rachel, see if that opens up. But that's another way to do it.
Also, if you do hit the notes section on the right, you can just make a note that's available for everyone.
Is that
It's
under
in
players?
player.
Oh, okay. So up here, that's above the campaign section, but the player header where we built our characters, there is the note. Yep, I see the note that Adam is creating. Oh, and you can choose to make it a public or a private note. So you might need to click that click that public checkbox to make it available. But I do see the new notes coming on in.
Yeah, I suggest using that if you wish to share notes, or if someone wants to be the group note taker for everyone else, they can put it in there and then see all the notes that is left for the campaign.
So I'm going to type in this one. And let's see, Adam, can you see the note that I made on Rachel's, the one that's public?
That's like a nod.
All right. So it looks like that's a cool place to share notes as well, too. And then we had a little bit of a late start, but I think this was important for you to sort of see all of the things that are available. We also quickly brought up maps. One last thing before we end out is we can have our characters on the map itself, and you can move and drag your tokens. And I'll share this map with you all so that way you can see. And it should pop up the map directly into your faces. And then your little peeps on the map, you can move and drag them around. And you also have the ability to sort of check distances or create, like if it's a cone effect or a line effect, etc. You can do that by right-clicking and opening up the pointers menu. And that will give you the ability to create pointers on maps. If you hold shift while you are hovering over a person, that changes the orientation of their direction. So that's how I was spinning in the spin Crime Rachel Boy. That's if I hold shift and then roll my mouse wheel. And then if we want to make tokens bigger, that's control with our mouse wheel. So you can do that. If they're a small turtle, a big turtle, get that turtle in my face.
The biggest turtle imaginable.
Right.
Yeah.
But those are some cool things that you'll get to experience and play with later on. So lots of fun maps. We have a nice grid to sort of keep us going during those battles when we need to check stuff out. But I think that covers most of the basics or a lot of the in-depth things to sort of get us going in the game. And I hope that you have learned a lot from me here today. And thanks for your participation. And I know it's a sort of a lot to sort of dig into, but I hope you liked it and love Fantasy Grounds as much as I do.
Awesome job, Trav. Thank you so much for teaching us Fantasy Grounds and getting over it. It's an amazing tabletop. So if you are liking what you see, everyone out there, and wish to dive into Fantasy Grounds, down below you will see there is the Fantasy Ground affiliate link that we have. You can click on it and download Fantasy Grounds Unity, create an account, and just jump right in. It's an amazing experience, and we do suggest that you go ahead and follow them and play on their virtual tabletop. Any final words before we head off and prepare for the switch to Session 0 of Send to the Void?
I'm good. Thanks so much. I had a great time teaching you all, and maybe we'll have some more if people liked these sessions. So
Awesome. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break, switch the stream over to a new one, and then hop right into Session 0, where we're going to introduce all these beautiful, fabulous people who are around the table and find out where they're from, what they do, and maybe dive in a little bit of their character. And what we're going to basically be doing is going over what you do in a Session 0, lines and veils, describe the world very quickly, talk about the characters a little bit, and then we're gonna hop in there and get right into this dramatic gameplay that is in store. So, with that being said, we'll see you guys back in about 5 minutes. We'll switch the screen over and then hop right in, and we're gonna get right into Descent into the Void. So see everybody soon.
See you in a moment.